Sight for a date.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to your Pennsylvania Dutch Minute. I got a viewer question today, and it's one that I guess a lot of people probably have thought about, but maybe never asked. Someone wrote in and said, thanks for the videos. It's been so informative. I've learned so much about my family's history and about our culture and our shared culture. But he asked then, why do I think we as a group, as the Pennsylvania Dutch, were able to maintain all of this stuff for as long as we did? And what it's a great question. It's an honestly great question. And I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not a sociologist. I haven't done PhD work on this, but I can give you at least my opinion. It's my YouTube channel, so that's what counts, I guess here. So we are unique, and I think I've talked about this before as an ethnic group. Most ethnic groups and immigrant groups that came to the United States throughout our history, the general rule is, as far as language maintenance, give it one generation. The generation that came over, of course, speaks the language. Their first generation born here, they will most likely pass some of the language on, but as a general rule, after that, the language tends to go away, and we know that to be the case. Look at any major immigrant group, whether it's the Italian Americans. How many Italian Americans still speak Italian? They might be third, fourth generation now in the United States. How many of them speak Italian? Greek Americans. Same. How many Americans that are here can speak Greek? They might know a couple words and phrases that they remember their grandparents saying and so forth. And, for the Pennsylvania Dutch in 2019, that's kind of where we are too, for us that are non-sectarian. People of my generation, they might remember their grandparents speaking the language and they know a word here or there. Maybe they can answer the question, Kannst du mich fangen? Or, they know Elwoodridge, things like that. But really, for the most part, there are some people still, like myself, for example, and other people that I know that still do speak the language. And, even if you say, well, that's, we have to think about, we were able to maintain our language for almost over 300 years. The first Pennsylvania Dutch come to the New World in 1683. In 1983, 300 years later, there was still a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch speakers in southeastern Pennsylvania and in other parts too. So, how were we? Why were we able to buck that trend of one generation or two generations and then losing their language? I'll talk about that in a minute, but for the most part, many other immigrants are able to maintain their food cultures and maybe some of their holiday traditions. So I don't think that we're all that unique in that we, the Pennsylvania Dutch, still have maintained those things. We still have a very vibrant food culture, one that is fiercely defended by many Pennsylvania Dutch, and a lot of our other smaller traditions like the Belschnickel or Groundhog Day. Yeah, I mean, not everybody celebrates them, but they're still there, and there are people that do. And other traditions that we have around Christmas and Easter and things like that. But I mean, I guess my best answer, the answer that comes to me right off the top of my head, is the fact that we were an isolated group. I often use the term of a language island that exists in linguistics. That we were a group that were on an island. Yes, we were surrounded, looking at our history, for most of our history, we were surrounded by non-Pennsylvania Dutch people, whether it was English, Scotch-Irish, and then eventually, having the influx of other immigrant groups like Italians, for example, and others in the later 1800s. But for the most part, the Pennsylvania Dutch really, we kept to ourselves. We geographically kept to ourselves. Once we established a foothold in southeastern Pennsylvania in our four core counties of Lehigh, Berks, Lancaster, and Lebanon, and the surrounding counties too, they were predominantly high percentage Pennsylvania Dutch. We tended to marry within ourselves. It wasn't all that common until, into the 1900s, where a Pennsylvania Dutch girl was marrying somebody other than a Pennsylvania Dutch boy. So for the most part, we were able to maintain our traditions in our language because we kind of had our own little country, I guess you could speak. All the while we were, of course, adapting and assimilating into American culture, and that definitely sped up in the 1900s. But I mean, we were allowed to. Nobody really pressured us or forced us with a heavy hand to get rid of our language and get rid of our culture and our traditions and our folk art. So, I mean, because of that, I think we had such a strong foundation in the 1700s and 1800s that by the time of the 1900s, that foundation was set. Now, of course, things like the World Wars and the rapid increase of speed and technology in the 1900s would change things, and people left farms. That was also a big thing. We were we were an agrarian society. We farmed the land. We stayed on farms. We stayed as families. That, of course, changes, through the Industrial Revolution into the 1900s, and sons and daughters start to move off the farm into other jobs that take them other places. So, I mean, we really start to see the decline really not until this, post-World War II. But I think that's the main reason why we've been able to maintain. And I think you can't disregard the aspect that we are very proud people, and we're also stubborn people. I mean, these are stereotypes, but I think in a lot of instances, they're very true. We are proud of who we are, and we are also stubborn. We don't like change as a whole. The Pennsylvania Dutch do not like change. We get into routine. We like our routine. Maybe that's our German DNA or our Germanic DNA, but it's there, and we can't discount that. Will we maintain it? That's always the big question of everything that I do here and why I'm doing this. What does the future look like? Are we as a people going to maintain some of these things in the future for future generations? I think absolutely. I don't think our food is going anywhere. We might see more and more fusion foods where we have things that maybe take Pennsylvania Dutch ingredients and get fused with other food ways, and I think that's fine. We don't have many people that are still living on a farm isolated. That isn't the world that we live in anymore, and it'll never be the world. I don't foresee that ever being the world again, where we move back to a completely self-sufficient lifestyle. Our plain brothers and sisters have held on to that aspect a lot better than we, the non-sectarians, have. But I think our language, with the help of social media and things like Facebook and YouTube and people like myself and many other people, we've have an opportunity now to record our language and our culture, so that no matter what, as long as people can access this stuff in the future, there'll be a record of it. And I have to tip my hat to many people that came before me who did a lot of literature and writing and research, people like Don Yoder and Dick Beam and Earl Haig, just to name a few. I mean, there's many others that really have paved the way for people like myself to continue their work, maybe not at the same academic standards that they had, but nonetheless keeping a record of who we are as a people and where we are and how we fit into culture today in 2019. So, I think I answered the question, at least in what I think about it or my opinion. Maybe you feel differently. Leave a comment in the section down below, giving your treatise as to why you think we've been able to maintain. And also, I'd love to hear, where do you think we're going? As somebody other than myself, someone that's a Pennsylvania Dutchman or woman living in 2019, where do you see the culture going? Do you see us being able to maintain it? What might hinder us from maintaining it, or what might support us in maintaining it? And we get a good discussion going, hopefully. It's a coffee house culture, a coffee house question. We sit down and talk about this, or beer hall question, whichever your drink of choice is. But I think it's a great idea, or at least a great topic to think about and discuss. So we'll leave it at that. I'm happy where we are. Could more people be speaking Pennsylvania Dutch? Of course, but I'm a realist as well. But we'll keep doing what we're doing here on this channel to help spread the message, and also to get people interested, and to give people a place to come and get information and learn, and hopefully then take that information and do something with it. So, thanks for the question. If you have an idea for a future video or a question like that, a thought-provoking, a head-scratcher, send it my way via the email. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so that you get updates every time a new video is posted and new materials out. And keep practicing your Pennsylvania Dutch. Be proud of who we are, of the culture that we have, the legacy that we have, and we'll continue pushing that into the future. Until next time, keep practicing your Pennsylvania Dutch. And Max gut!
Max gut!